Docker work. Talking about the need of Docker, the good things which Docker will do in case I start using Docker, and the environmental dependencies and all will not be there. Now, one important thing which we were discussing yesterday was that this guy. So this is what we were discussing yesterday, that we have Docker client where we are writing our commands. Then we have Docker host where we are running our Docker daemon or Docker engine. And then inside that we have our container and we have our images. And finally, we have Docker registry where we go ahead and put everything. Then we came to this place where we started talking about we started talking about the Docker volumes. Okay, I think it is not here. So we came to this point and we started talking about Docker volume. So I told you that when you create a Docker volume, the main motive behind that is that you want to make your data persistent. So when I say persistent, the simple meaning is that I want that whenever I start my work, okay, my data should be saved in a location. And whenever I am done with my work, the data should stay there. Means it should not happen that the data automatically gets deleted with my container. So if that happens, I am going to lose my data. And this is exactly what I don't want. I don't want to lose my data even if my container is gone. So in that case, I am going to make some arrangement. And that arrangement for me will be using Docker volume. So yesterday, what I did is I first created a volume and I used -v flag to go ahead and work with this. So this is what I have done. So this is -v, go here. This is what we did yesterday. Okay. Guys, are you able to hear me? Mute all. Internet is unstable. Are you able to hear me? I just got a notification that your internet is unstable. Can anyone confirm if you are able to hear me?
Yes, Vikas. Yes,
Yeah,
we can hear you.
You can able to hear you clearly.
Great. I just got a notification that my internet is not stable. That's why I just asked you people. Anyhow, we'll go back.
It's good
What
now.
we did is we started here. We started with this Docker volume and we told that we will be first creating a volume and then using that volume for my day-to-day work. This is my thing. And I removed the unnecessary spaces. Then this guy. Finally, this guy. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. So I'm saying I'm going to create a volume with the name as volume 2, and whatever data I store in the volume 2 will automatically get replicated here. Alternatively, whatever I store in my app folder will automatically go and get replicated here. So this is inside the container. This is outside the container or on my local system. So the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this volume. So yesterday I told you that if you want to create your volume, you can come down to this place, your interactive Kubernetes shell, and you can start your work. So I think this got deleted. So let me just refresh this guy again. Let me just. Okay, let me click on this. So guys who are staying in Bangalore or are somehow related to Bangalore, they will know that there are huge rainfall here in Bangalore. And because of that, a lot of things have gone to big trouble. So I am one of the people who is facing this problem. So there's a lot of problem here for internet, for electricity, for water, everywhere, water, flood kind of a situation. Anyhow, we can move. So I'm just trying to bring up my server, my environment, and after that, I'll start my work. So I'm trying to achieve this kind of logic, which we did yesterday, where I have the Docker environment. And with that Docker environment, whatever data gets generated, I'm trying to store it in my volume. So let me come here. So I will first say, if I don't know about Docker volume, I will simply say Docker volume ls. So I will get response from here. It is very slow. Okay, so I see that there is no volume available here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a volume. So I'll say Docker volume create, and you create a volume of your choice, volume, or I will give a name as my volume 2. Okay, enter. Now if I come here and say Docker volume ls, I will be able to see my volume. So this is my volume. Okay, so I'm good to start now. Now what I'll do is I'll run this command, and this command says that whatever you see in your my volume folder, this my volume folder, the same should be replicated in the \app folder, which is inside the container. So let me just go ahead and run this. So I'm going to run this command, which says Docker run -d. So -d I know is a detach mode. -- name is going to give a name. So the name of my container is dev test. -v flag is for that volume thing. And I have attached my volume 2 with \app. In case you want, you can add that port forwarding thing also, but I just skipped that portion because that was optional. And then I'm running the Nginx latest image, and I can see that the container is ready now. So if I come here and say Docker ps -a, I will see my container is ready, and the name of the container is dev test. Now I would like to go inside the container. So I'll say something like this: Docker exec -it. So I told you IT stands for interactive terminal mode. Copy the content, paste the Docker ID, and then bin bash. Now, if you see, I'm inside the container, and here, if I do ls -l, I will see this app folder. Now, whatever I do inside the app folder will automatically get replicated to my volume 2. So let's do something. So first, I can say touch. Let me clear all these things first. So the first thing what I'm doing is I'm saying touch file1.txt. So a file has been created. If you want to validate, you can do ls -l. Sorry, my bad. I should have gone inside app folder. And now I should have done this touch file1.txt. So now if you come here and say ls -l, you will see file1.txt is here. As of now, there's nothing here. So it is 0 bytes are there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some data. So I will do something like this, echo. Now, if I try nano, what will happen? Nano. And if I want to edit this file, it will say nano not found, because this nano is a software and it is not installed. Okay, so I'm not trying to go ahead and install software and then do it. So I'm simply saying echo, this line is added.
VA editor will work.
No, VI editor will also not work. It has to be installed. I'll show you that. This line is added from container. Okay. If I do like this, it will simply print this statement, but I will do something like this. I will redirect this to my file. So now what will happen? The content is inside my file and I can see the content. Cat means display. Now, if I try some other editor, like when you work with a Windows machine or a Mac machine, you have Notepad, Notepad++, Word, MS Word, then WordPad. So like that, there are so many editors available. Similarly, when I work with a Linux environment, I have Nano as one of the editor, but it is not there inside the container. Then if I try this VI container or the Vim container, you will see VI is also not there. That's why I'm using touch and echo to just populate some data. And as of now, I have populated this data. Cat file1.txt, you can see this data. And if I do ls-l, I can see 34 bytes of data is present here and it was created on September 7th. So this is the UTC time which I have right now. Now, if I come out of this, exit, so I am out, but in the \app folder, whatever I will store, it will get replicated in my volume 2. So I will say docker inspect, okay, docker volume inspect, sorry, docker volume inspect, and you will say my volume 2. I think this is what we created. So this is the path, or this is the Docker path where all the content is getting stored. Okay, so let me take this path, cd, go to this path, copy, paste, ls-l, and you can see the same file here also. Okay, and then if you want to make some changes, it is outside the container. So here nano and all will work. Okay, so nano file1.txt, new lines added from outside. Now new lines have been added and I can edit the file. Okay. This is what I am saying. Control X, Y, enter. Now what has happened? Obviously the size of the file has increased. So I can see that now this file of the size is 87 KB and the size has increased. Now again, if I go inside the container and do app ls-l, I can see 87 and this file. And if I want to just view the content, I can use this cat file and I can see the content. So one thing I'm assured is that this content is getting replicated. Okay, so let me come out of the container. Now, due to some reason, somebody deleted the container. Okay, or the container automatically got deleted. Some problem happened. Okay, so let me come here and say docker ps -a. So this is the container. Copy. How to delete this container? Docker rm -f and paste it here. And here now, if you come here and say docker ps -a, you will not see anything. Means it is deleted. What happened to the data? Data is still intact. So if I go back to this place, data, which is my volume 2 ka data, and if I do ls-l, the data is intact. Even if the container got deleted, the data is intact. So outside the container, everything will work. Nano, VI, and all those things will work. Inside container, it is not working because I have not installed it. In case you want, you can go ahead and install it. But again, that's not required for me as of now. Now, this folder or this volume, which I have, my volume 2, I want to associate it with 2 containers. So I will do something like this. I'll bring up 2 containers. So first container will be dev test. Okay, run it. And the second container will be dev test 1. Okay. Now, if you clear this and say docker ps -a, you will see there are 2 containers running. And what I have done is for both the containers, I have used the same volume. It means both the containers are going to share the same content. Okay. How do you validate that? Come here, copy docker exec -it minus IT paste bin bash cd app, and here you can see that file1.txt. You can come here and say echo, means I'm doing some changes.
We can enter into the Docker container by name also, or only
Yes.
ID.
You can address it by the container ID or the container name, but the container names are ambiguous. So it is a good practice that you always address them by the ID. The ID will always be unique. In fact, the name also should be unique, but many a times it creates problems. So I don't want to prefer going by container name. Okay. So here I'm saying changes done from the container container TA container and the name ID of the container. Okay. And where do you want to push this data? In my file1.txt. Okay. Now I will exit from here. So this is my A90, this first container. Now I'll go inside this, copy, and I will again say Docker. So once I'm changing from first container, second time I'm changing from the second container. Docker exec minus IT, and then you go ahead with your container ID. This is the second container, okay? CAA, something like this is there. And then bin bash. Okay. And here cd app, and then ls minus l. Again, I will go and say echo changes done from container and the name of the container. This is not correct. This is the correct thing. Copy, paste it, and close it. And then I'm pushing this to file1.txt. Okay. Now, if you see cat file1.txt, you'll see both the lines are added. One is from the old container, the other one is from the new container. Or see, this is I added from here, and the other one I added from here. Now, if I exit from both the containers and go to my volume, cd, go to my volume, okay, and here again. Guys, there was a power cut again at my place. Again, I have to recreate this. Give me 1 minute for this.
Because
Hey guys, so I lost connection in between. Again, there was a power cut at place, and hence I just got disconnected. So let me just go back again. So there's a lot of power fluctuation here. So let me recreate the scenario. So basically I create and I share it with 2 containers. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change them from both the containers, and I would validate that at the end of the day, both of them are getting changed.
Because
yeah,
Munish here. Is there any volumes limitations for the container?
is there any volume?
Limitations. So like, for example, I have the 2 volumes I created, Docker volume.
No volume limitation. It will depend on how much storage you have in your local
Okay.
environment. So if you have 10 GB of local storage, you get 10 GB.
Understand. If possible, can you create 2 volumes and attach one Docker?
No, 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 no. So two volumes cannot. So this combination will.
Volume 1 and volume 2, two volumes.
So this combination will not work. So you are saying I'll create volume 1, volume 1, volume 1 and volume 2, and I will link with one container.
Okay. Can you do that?
This combination will not work. It will fail.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, but one number of containers, but one volume can be done, right?
Yes. Other way is okay. Let me say I have container 1 and container 2. Both are using same volume. So this combination can work, but other way it will not work. Okay. So I am going to do this thing now. Okay.
No.
I need my volume. Let me mute you so that there is no disturbance in the background.
Yeah.
Allow participants to unmute. So, okay, fine. So let me just go ahead and first do the same thing. Docker volume create, and I'm creating my vol 2. And then I will go ahead and run this command. Docker run -d. I'm giving dev test 1. Okay. And then I'm saying that I'm going to use my volume 2 here. This is unable to find the match locally. So it is pulling Docker Nginx latest image from Docker Hub and downloading it for me. So now if I come here and can see my image or my container running. So this is one of the container running. Now I will go ahead and create one more container. I will say dev test 1. And I can see two containers are there now, Docker PS -a. Okay. So now what I'm trying to do is I'll go inside the containers and I will make changes. So first, let's take the container 1, copy, and I will say Docker exec -it. You paste the content and then you say bin bash. Okay. So you are inside the container. Here you go inside the app folder and you say, I will say echo, and I will say, I am inside this container, whatever name you have or whatever ID you have. And then you redirect it to file1.txt. Okay. If you want to check, you can just see that one line is there. Exit from here. Now this time I've already been to this D8 container. This time I will go inside this other container. So my other container, this is the other container. Copy. I will say Docker exec -it. So I'll not go inside D8 wala container. I'll go inside this other container. Paste. Okay. Again, the same thing. I'll go inside app. I will do ls-l. So I can see that file1.txt is already there. Okay. I will go ahead and add a line, echo lines added from the other container ID. And I'm going to, so 2 times that thing should be there. Okay. This greater than symbol should be 2 times, else it will override the content. Okay. So I will say file1.txt. Now I will exit from here and I will go to my volume. So I'll say Docker inspect and the volume. So my vol 2, and I can come to this path, copy the content, say Docker, sorry, go to the path. So CD means change directory, paste this entire thing. Now, if you come here, ls-l, you will see the file and you can also see the content of the file. And you can see these 2 lines are there. One coming from the first container, the second one coming from the third container. So if this thing I want to visualize, this is something like this. This is the volume. Okay, and then there are two containers which are running with this container 1, container 2. Now, in my morning class, when I was teaching this, one of the students asked, can you give me a real-time scenario where this thing is being implemented? Now, you might have used Uber. Uber is nothing but it's a cab booking service, right? Now, there are chances that you have 2 to 3 mobile phones, okay? Or you and your family members are using the same account. If there is any issue in two containers pushing, is there any issue if two containers pushing the data? No, there will be no issue. Obviously, the timestamp will be different. Exactly if at the same time both the containers are trying to push the data, then the one who does first will be going first and the one doing second will go second, like that. But exactly at the same time, both of them cannot work. That will not work. Okay. So I was telling what is the real-time use case of this thing which we have learned just now. So we all know that Uber is a cab booking service. And when I say it's a cab booking service, I am more into this, your containers and all. So Uber is more into containers and microservices. So now let me say that you have two mobile phones and a laptop. So you log in from phone 1, phone 2, and your laptop. Okay, so basically for me, if I speak technically, this is container 1, container 2, container 3. But when I log in from different devices, even then my details should stay intact, like my customer information, my payment details. Okay, customer information, payment details. So these are few things which should remain consistent. Okay, and for that I use Docker volume. So doesn't matter which container you are using. At the end of the day, all the data will be stored here. It means if you booked a cab with your mobile phone 1 and some payment got deducted, it will reflect here also. It will reflect here also. So I'm making this as a central point, which is storing the data and making sure that the data is consistent throughout. So data persistence is one aspect of Docker volume and data consistency is another aspect. So by using Docker volume, I can make sure that both of the ends are met. Now, at the same time, I showed you that there is one more option here which we can use, and that is mount. So when you use mount, the syntax will be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it will also do the same task. So let me just come back here. And let me just try to run this. Now, if you see this, again, they are also trying to do the same thing. So they are saying that you create a container. So this name cannot be dev test because it is already taken here. So I'm giving the name as dev test 2. And instead of using -v flag, I'm using --mount flag. Okay. And here I'm saying source is my volume 2 and target is this. Now here, if you want, you can change the location. You can say in temp folder. So in my local machine, I will keep the data in temp folder, and in my target machine, I will keep it on my app folder. So here, this parameter can be changed. This can be changed, but here, this cannot be changed. And exactly the same thing they are trying to tell you here. So when you use a bind mount, it says this file system. So it says when you're using container volume, it will always redirect you to this location, Docker area. It means the data will always be stored in the Docker area. And when we say Docker inspect volume, the volume ID, we come to know that, okay, this is the Docker area, or this is the fixed location where it will be stored. So let me just come here and say Docker inspect, and so Docker volume inspect. And my volume 2. So So you can see this area. This is also known as Docker area, and this is fixed. Okay, so this cannot be changed. This area var lib docker volume, this is fixed. So this is also known as Docker area. But at any point of time, if I have to use mount, I can change the source. Obviously, the target also can be changed. So this is the benefit I get here. So now I can try the same thing, but using volume only. So let me just try. So at the end of the day, both of them are doing the same thing. They are making sure that you get your data in a persistent manner. So if you come here, Docker ps minus a. So this is what I have just now created 5 seconds back. If you take this ID, copy, come here and say Docker inspect, and I go inside the container, paste. Here you will find this detail. See here, it is using a volume, my volume 2, source is this guy, and destination is this guy. So this source can be changed. You can change this as per your requirement. Okay, but if you go for any interview and then the interviewer says, tell me how can you make your data persistent, or what problem do you see with Docker containers? So the problem I see is that the data is not persistent. At any point of time, if my container is dead, somehow my container got terminated, my data is automatically lost. So I can use Docker volume to make it persistent. Is there any other option? Yes, I have Docker bind mount. What's the difference? When I use Docker volume, I get only that Docker area as my storage. But if I want to store it somewhere else, I will use my Docker bind mount. That's the difference. Now, let's move on from here. Now, many a times, what will happen is, in fact, most of the times, I should not say many a times, most of the times what will happen is, so you will go to this place, hub.docker.com, or you are going to your Google repository, wherever you will go, the content which you are looking at may not be present. So let me say that I go to this repository. Is there any way automatic container load? Automatic will not happen unless and until you specifically say that I want to do this, it will not happen. So the default behavior of container is not to keep the data. The default behavior is to come and go. Means when you bring your container, it will be there. When you bring your container down or you stop your container, it will be gone like that. So if you go to explore section, here you will see nginx, or you take anything. It's not nginx only, you take anything. So this is a base image, or this is an image which doesn't have any functionality. Now, suppose in your company, they say that you have to do so and so things. So I need an image, or I need a image which has 10 other softwares installed. Apart from Nginx, I need 10 other softwares. So in that case, you have to go ahead and customize this requirement. So customize in this requirement in the sense, whatever image I'm getting from Docker Hub, on top of that, I have to make some changes. So that can be achieved by using a Docker file. So let me come here. Okay. A Docker file will look something like this. Wait a second, it will not be very good right now. Okay. See, generally what happens is whenever we are trying to build something, or whenever we are trying to create something, okay, we first bring the container and then manually start typing the commands. But in a prod environment or in a day-to-day work, you will not be able to do that. It means the company will say, I need a ready-made solution. So as of now, what we are doing, as of now, we are coming here. Okay, we are coming here and what's okay. Okay, so let me come here and say Docker ps minus a. So I have 3 containers running. Okay, the company will say in this container, you install a software. So I'll go here, copy. I will say Docker exec minus it, and I will paste this content and bin bash. I'll go inside and here I will try to install the software. So maybe I'll say apt install git. Now before installing git, I will just check if git is there or not. So git ---- version. So it says git not found. So I'll go ahead and install that. Apt install git -y. Okay, it says okay, it should be installed. Unable to locate package git. Okay, or apt update. First, let me update apt update -y. So there are some system related updates which are available. So I'm doing a apt update -y, and let me now run this command apt install git. So now it is able to install this software, and you can see this software is getting installed. Now if I come here and say git ---- version, I can see git is installed. 2.30 is installed. Now I went inside the container and I did whatever I had to, but I did a lot of work. I installed 10 software here. Okay, but some other developer came and he deleted it. So he came here and said docker rm-f paste. He deleted all the 3 containers. Okay, this is what he did. Now, if I come back, I will see everything is gone. Now you will say that where is my software? Is it not there in my backup? No, we never took the backup of the software. We were only taking the backup of the data. So your software is gone. Whatever work you have done is gone. So we don't go ahead and do this way. Means first we bring up the container, then we start installing softwares on top of that. Rather, the image which is already there, we modify that only, and we say custom image. So whatever image you are seeing here in your hub.docker.com, we treat them as base image. Okay, and on that base image, we make our changes. Okay, so the company who has created this image, they also have done something like that. But on top of that, I'm making my changes. How to do that? So I will say nginx. Let me go to this image only. Can the software also be stored in volumes? Softwares, if you want to store, yes, you can, but not the software will be the, see, when you have a Windows machine, okay, let me give you an example of Windows machine. When you format the machine, okay, everything gets deleted from your C drive, right? Because let me say you're formatting C drive. So everything gets deleted. But if you have kept the .exe of that file somewhere else, it is saved. So if you want to save the .exe, yes, you can. But at the end of the day, when you format, everything is gone and you install everything from beginning. So in case you want to store it, yes, it can be done, but the recommended way is not doing that. So people or the company people, what they have done, they have created this image. To create this image, they have done something like this. They have written a code. So if you go to any version, I'm not saying this version only, click on this version. It will take you to the GitHub page of this guy, nginx docker and this thing. And this is the code they have written to make that image. So I told, right, image is a stagnant version or it's a static version. So how they got that, or how did they create that? So this is what they have done. So they have written a piece of code. Now, if you see this carefully, there are a lot of things, but this lot of things is not of my concern. The concern is the keywords which they have used. So if you see here, they have used keyword like from, label, environment, run, then copy, entry point, expose. Now, these are the keywords which they have used. Now, I am also going to do something like that. So for that, even I am going to create a image. To create an image, I need something called Docker file, or you create a Docker file. Now the question can be asked, why are you creating a Docker file? So whatever image I am getting from my hub.docker.com is not 100% what I need. Maybe it is only 30%. The other 70% is my project requirement. My client is saying that you take the basic or the base image of Nginx, and on top of that, you give me other 5 softwares. And I cannot first install the base image and then go and do that manually. That's not how it is done. We are going to add more layers on top of my existing image. And for that, I'm going to create a Docker file. When I have to create a Docker file, I will have these keywords like from. It will tell me which base image are you going to use. User, who is the user? Whether he has the power to do this or not. Add means add some files. Expose means the internal port number will be exposed. I'll go with detail with all these things, okay? Run means in case you want to run some commands. CMD is the entry point, okay? Workdir and environment variables. Workdir is where you're inside the container, where all these things wait. So I will go ahead and explain this one by one, and then we will go ahead and talk about this. So if I have to write a Docker file, I will do something like this. So I will go to my GitHub. I already have something. So I'll just copy paste and then I'll explain that. What is that? Is it possible to bind mount container to SFTP servers? Yes, you can do a bind mount to any location. It can be SFTP server, it can be a cloud server, anything is okay. So I'm going to write a code here, interactive shell, open it up. So as of now, if you come here and do ls-l, there is something called file1.txt, okay? So let me exit from here. I think I'm inside the container. Okay, session has also expired. Let me refresh this guy. We are not done 1 hour, right? Why it has expired? Anyhow. Let this come up. Guys, give me 1 minute. I'll be back. Let this session come up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a Docker file. So nano. Okay, and I will say Docker file. So Docker file, decaps and Docker file. Enter. And then you will write something like this. Wait a second. No, these are required. These are not required. I'll just. So there are a few lines of code if you see here. Now, let me read it and try to understand what is written here. Later, I'll teach you how to write all these things. But as of now, let's go ahead and try to understand what is written here. It says from, so when I say from, it says from hub.docker.com, take the base image. And here I'm saying take Nginx latest image. Then I'm saying, so this how this is executed. Now let me say this is my machine and this is my Docker installed. And here I have my container. So whenever you start your work, the first command will be this guy. Sorry. The first command which will be executed will be this guy, CMD or command. So what it will do is it will create an entry point because your Docker is here. You have installed your Docker CLI is this guy, right? So from here, you create an entry point or you create a hole here and think like this. You create a hole so that these commands can go inside and get executed. Okay. So this is line number 1, which gets executed, and line number 2, and then whatever is there, line number 3, 4, 5, like that, it will get executed. Okay. So let's try to understand this. So it says from Nginx latest means go and connect yourself to hub.docker.com. And from there, you take the Nginx latest image. Second command says cmd Nginx -g daemon off means once the work is done. So there are two things here. So cmd will first open a slot here so that the commands can go inside and get executed. And later, once the installation is done, it will do a daemon off, means it will restart my application, something like that. Okay. Then I'm saying inside the container means here you run these commands. First command is apt-y update. Then you install the software Git for me. Then install the software Apache 2 for me. And in my local, I have a file which I'll create, index.html. You copy it inside this location. Okay. So basically there are some 4 or 5 commands which I want to execute. So I have just now written a Docker file. Why am I writing a Docker file? Because I need an image with my requirement. Whatever the company has provided or whatever Docker Hub is providing is a base image. It's a basic thing. Okay. Like when you buy a mobile phone, it is having nominal apps, almost no app is installed. So what you do is inside that you try to install your apps. So think this as a base image, this creating a entry point, then these things getting installed, this file getting copied, and finally a daemon off happening. Okay. And all these things will happen right in front of you. Okay. So the first thing is to make this thing work, this file should be present in your local machine. Okay. Index.html. So let me just do that. Few questions are there. To write a Docker file, any language? No, it is, there's no language or anything required. It is a normal script or key value pair. There's no scripting language or any precise thing required for that. Okay. Control X, Y, enter. So if you see here, Docker file does not have any extension. Okay. Now I have the Docker file with me. I want to make a container out of that, or I make first I will make an image out of that. So how will I do that? I will use a command called Docker build. Okay. Now, if you don't know what is Docker build, just say --help. It will tell you how to do Docker build. All these commands will be there. So it says build an image from a Docker file. So using Docker build, I can create an image of my own. What is the order of? The order can be anything. Okay. The order of Docker file can be anything, but the only important thing here is generally you will see this is the first statement and this is the last statement. And inside this, you can have anything what you want. If you check the official image, so let me say this is the official image. Here also, if you see, they take from as the first executable, and you will see CMD as the last one. And then in between, you keep anything of your choice. So I am here right now. I have my Docker file ready. Control X. Okay. I will create one more file, that index.html. So I'll say nano index.html. And I will create this thing. Okay. So I'll say HTML. So I'm writing a very basic web page. This is a web page. Okay. Control X, Y, enter. So if I come here right now, I have two files. Docker file where D is capital, there is no extension, and I have index.html. Now I want to build this Docker file. So I can say Docker build. Okay. Now, when I do a build, I should give a name. Okay. So generally the name what we give is, you go to hub.docker.com. And here, when you're using hub.docker.com, you might have created an account. See, I have created an account with the name as Vikas24775. I'm using the free version, so it is saying me to upgrade. But this is the content, or this is the Docker Hub ID which I have. So I will give a name. So when you're giving a name, the name has to be like this. -T is for tag. Tag is nothing but the name which you want to give. So I'm saying Docker build -T for the tag. And then you say Vikas 24775. Obviously, when you are doing, you will give your Docker ID, because you can't give my Docker ID, right? So you say Docker build -T. I give my Docker hub ID / whatever name you want to give. Sample nginx evening. So I've given a name as this. And then I can either give the path of this Docker file, or I can simply say dot. Now, why I'm saying dot? Because the place from where I'm running Docker build and the Docker file both are at same place. So the command will be like this: Docker build -T for the tag. This is the name which I'm going to give. Okay. If you want to give a tag, or if you want to give a version to this, you can say 1.1, something like this. I just give a version, because if you see this guy, this is my Nginx image, or you take any image, not only Nginx, you take any image. Let me say I'm taking Tomcat. So every image will have versions. Come to tags now. See here, latest, JRET, Jammy, JRE, something they have given name. Okay. And if you want, you can also give a name. Okay. I will give the name something like this. You can give the tag as 1.1, or give any version. You can say JRE Jammy. This is my image, so I can give any name. So this is what I have done. Docker build -T for the tag. Tag is this name which I want to give. This name compromises of two things: my Docker hub ID and the name which I want to give to my container, followed by a tag or a version. And then I say dot. So when you're running, don't forget this dot. If you forget this dot, it will not run. See here, it is failing. It says Docker build requires exactly one argument. So you need to come here and say dot. Dot in the sense your Docker file. Now what it will do is it will start reading the Docker file. See, the first step is read. Step 1, from Nginx latest. So it is picking the latest file. Now step 2, run apt update -y. So it is running that apt update -y. Then the third step will come. So like this, what it is doing, it is going ahead and running everything for you one by one. I'll show you all these execution. But this execution, see the 5th step, 6th step, and then finally it says the build is successful. I got a commit ID and it was tagged with this thing. Okay. Now I can show you this entire thing from here. There are some errors or warnings. You can ignore those warnings. That's not important. See here. So this is what I did. Docker build -T for the tag. This is the name I have given, and then dot. There were 6 steps in my Docker file. Started with step number 1, went ahead and said from Nginx latest. So it connected itself to hub.docker.com and downloaded a new image of Nginx latest, or the latest version of Nginx was downloaded. On top of that, step number 2 says that run this command apt update -y or apt -y update, means update the software for me. So here some warning was there, here again warning was there, but it updated everything for me. Step number 3, run apt install git. So git was installed for me. Similarly, it went and installed all the software. Then step number 4, apt installed Apache 2. So another software I installed. Keep going. Then here it is copying this index.html to this location. And finally, it is running the cmd command and doing a daemon off. Daemon off means restart the system. I have installed something new, restart the system. So now if I clear all these things and go and say docker ps -a, sorry, docker images. So I will see there are images, but this is what I'm interested in. I have created my own image. See here, Vikas 24775. This is the name I had given. This is the tag which is associated. This is a new image ID. It was created 1 minute back and actual size is 255 MB. I took Nginx latest as my base version and that was 142 MB. On top of that, I added some 110 MB of data and I went and created this guy. This entire thing is what I created. So now whatever I have created is created on my local machine. Okay. Now, whatever I have built is built at one single shot, step by step, right? So I have created my local image, but this image is still in my local machine. I can push this to my Docker Hub. So what I will do now, I will take this image to Docker Hub. So let's clear all these things. I will say Docker login. So it will ask me for my username, Vikas 24775. Then it will ask me for my password. I'll provide my password. And if my password is correct, I get the message as login succeeded, means you are good. Now I can, earlier I used to do Docker pull. This time I will do, first let me do git images. Sorry, not git images, Docker images. Okay. This is the image and this is the commit message. Okay, so, copy. So what I'm going to do, I will say Docker push. Okay, and the stuff which I copied. Colon. So I'll say Docker push Vikas 24775 sample Nginx evening and the tag is JRE jamming. See, it is pushing to my docker.io Vikas 24775 sample Nginx. See here, pushed. Now these are already there. So it is mounted from Nginx. And finally, JRJME digest size is 24212 and it is pushed. Can you go and check whether it is available here or not? So I'll come to my repositories. Here you can see sample Nginx is there. 11 hours ago I have pushed. I'll refresh this guy. Okay, you can see here sample Nginx evening, last push a few seconds ago. If I go inside, I can see JRE Jammy was there, which was pushed a few seconds back. And if you want to see the code, you can come here, click on that JRE Jammy, and it will show you the code. So this is what I had run. apt update -y, apt install git, apt install. So this and then copy was there. And this is the last command which I have done. So this is what it is showing me. So basically, when you work with your Docker environment, you don't get ready-made solutions. You will have to sit and write these Docker files. Okay, so I'll give you some Docker files to write, but as of now, I have just now shown you one Docker file, how to write a Docker file, then convert this Docker file into a Docker image. And once it is converted to Docker image, obviously you can bring containers out of that. So if you want, you can say Docker run -d. You want to give a name, new container. You want to do port forwarding. So you say -p. Internally, it will run at 8080. Externally, sorry, like this. Then you give the name of your container. This full thing you give. Copy. Paste it. Enter. See, now you're getting a container out of this. Docker ps -a. See here, it is saying this is a container ID. And this is the image which you have used. Okay. And it is up and running from last 4 seconds. Now, if I go inside this, Docker exec -it. Bin bash. Okay. And I guess go and say git -- version. I will see git is installed. Okay. And that is how I make custom Docker images. So when I say custom Docker image, I want that whatever is my client's requirement, I put it in the Docker file along with a base image, and then I will go ahead and do the work. Okay. Now I'll unmute you. If you have any questions, you can go ahead. So today in the class, we learned about Docker volume, Docker mount point, and then we learned about Docker custom Docker images, where we learned about Docker file, then Docker build, Docker tag, finally pushing that image to Docker hub by doing Docker login, and finally taking that image and running for your local. Now, anybody who wants.
Sorry, because
Wait 1 second.
yeah, sorry.
One second. So anybody who wants can come here. Okay. Anybody who wants can come here and go to my repository, because my repository is a public one. He can come here and he see it is public one. So come here and he can Docker pull. So you have to pull. So say Docker pull and this entire thing. And for the tag name, you will get this tag JRE Jammy. So you can go ahead and pull this image and start using it. So anybody can do that. Yeah, please.
Sorry to interrupt you. What is the exact difference between the bind mount and volumes?
See, while teaching, I told you that.
See, either we attach the volumes to the mount, right? So in the backend,
See,
the same thing. So we used to separate. We used to have the separate volumes for the in the OS level. So how exact? What is the exact difference between the both of them in the Docker's perspective?
Yes, that's what. When you say container volume, you are restricted to Docker area. So when you're taking the backup, it will always be in the Docker area. You cannot change this. But when you say bind mount, your source can change, your target can change. So that's the difference. Okay. So like somebody was asking, I have a shared file drive. Okay. I don't want to store it in Docker area. Okay. I have a shared file, or I have a cloud storage. I want to store it there. So bind mount will help you there. Volume cannot help. Volume is only for local Docker area. That's the difference. Okay. And also I told you that when you are running this, anyhow, you can read this, but when you're running this mount, in the mount, you can give any source and any target. That is up to you. But when you're using -v, this will be Docker area only. This cannot change. So that's a limitation of Docker volume, which can be taken care in your Docker bind mount.
So because like, for example, I have a Linux machine and I have Docker engine running on my Linux machine. By using volume, I can store over there, right? Within the Linux machine.
Yes,
But if it is go to mount point, if we have NFS, like network files sharing.
Yes.
So it's we can share any other systems as well.
Correct.
Like if we have
Correct.
sharing. Okay.
Okay, and please get in touch with your coordinators, the commands, the GitHub link, the PPT, everything will be shared with you. So volume data also pushes to Docker Hub. See, the image which I have created, I am pushing it to Docker Hub. See, Docker volume is different, Docker Hub is different. Okay, Docker volume is for your data, and Docker Hub is for your image. So there are two different things. One is software, the other one is data. So please don't get confused.
So for writing a Docker file, we need to learn any scripting?
No,
or...
it is not scripting. There will be a format. I'll share that template with you. Okay. And then you decide, see, the company's requirement will be like, I want this software. I don't want this software. So there you have to write this. There's no scripting required. You can say
it's a set of instructions format.
Yes, it's a set of instructions. Mapping with app folder, does it also move to hub? No, the mapping and all will not move. Because /app, which we did, is only for the data. So when you, let me say that you have a Windows machine. In Windows machine, you have two components, or any machine, you have two components. One is software and the other one is data. So when we are saying volume, we are only talking about data. When we are saying images, we are only talking about the software. So there are two different things. Yes, you can mix them, but keep it separate.
Because we are taking the image backup, right? After installing the Git and we took the image. That means if we take the image, it comes along with the complete OS, right?
Yes, complete set. So this JRE Jammy, what I have just now created, it will contain everything. Your OS, your software, your files, everything will be there.
Okay. Okay.
Vikas, Shiva, what kind of data will be used in the volumes? Like in the
it will now depend on what kind of image you have. Now, if you're using MySQL image, okay. So if you're using MySQL image, then you will have normal your SQL data. If you're using MongoDB, you will have no SQL data. If you're using Tomcat, anything like that, you will have web servers. So it will totally depend on what kind of.
Tell you the case, like example, if I put like Apache and I'm just running application and just keeping the temporary data, like suddenly like it will be sharing to multiple containers. If the volume got deleted, so what?
That then you have to take care of the volume. You have to take up the backup of the volume.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Vikas. I have a question. If let's say I'm building a LAMP stack, like an application with the LAMP stack, can I do all of that in one container?
You can do all of that, but when you use a LAMP stack application, you are not using a single software. There will be 2-3 softwares which are here. So in that case, I will use something called Docker Compose, which I will be talking about tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
The Docker files that you mentioned.
Yeah.
What are the correct software we use to remove these files without any interruption?
You want to remove the files?
Yeah, without any interruption.
You can go ahead and change your image, or you can change the Docker file itself. Suppose there are 4 softwares earlier. Now you don't need 2 of them. You delete it from your Docker file, create a new image, and then create a container with the new image.
Okay, but creating a container in new image won't cause any intervention. See, if you are stopping a running container, there will be an intervention. And to bridge these gaps, we are using Kubernetes. But what if the systems are not responding? Then you have to delete the container and you have to spin new containers. Okay, thank you.
If the container is not responding, it means it is dead.
Okay, thank you.
See you then, guys. Bye-bye.